Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before we get started, I just want to introduce myself and our presenter. My name is Nathan Austin. I am the Curriculum and Online Training Manager for Casio. I have 11 years of teaching experience between high school and community college, and I've had the privilege of working with our software development for several years as well. I'm enjoying my role right now working with our webinars, and I'm glad to be able to introduce to you Judy Johnson, who will be doing the presentation this evening. She teaches high school mathematics, although she's taught subjects ranging from 8th grade up through calculus. And I'm looking forward to seeing what she's got to share with us this evening. Before I hand over control to her, however, I just want to remind everybody, those of you who have been through our other webinars have seen this before, that for the sake of audio quality, everyone is automatically muted. If you have a question, you can always type it in the question pane that you have available to you, and I will respond back privately unless it seems a question that may be pertinent, and then I'll share it with Judy, and we can all hear it. If you need immediate assistance, you can also raise your hand. There's a little hand symbol by clicking on the hand symbol in the upper left-hand corner. So without further ado, I'm going to hand control over to Judy. And there you go.
Okay, and hello everyone. My name is Judy Johnson, and as Nathan said, I am a math teacher. I've been teaching now for 37 years, and I have been teaching everything from 8th grade on up. And tonight I wanted to show you a few ideas that the Casio calculators can be used in the geometry classroom, because geometry is my one love. And what I wanted to do was show you how to present angles and central angles and ascribed angles and the relationship to the circle. A lot of my students have a hard time with this, so I thought maybe we could use some way of demonstrating for them. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the Prism. However, this is also available on the 9860 G2 Plus. So both calculators do have the same basic functions. We're going to start first by going to the geometry menu.
If I can interrupt really quick, Judy, if you could share your screen, you have to click that button there just to make sure everyone can see. There we go. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay, so we're going to look at the main menu. When you turn on your Prism, or you would turn on your other calculator, you'll see the main menu. The geometry menu is at the bottom, which you can either scroll down using your arrow keys and quickly go to it, or you can actually go the other direction. You can also access it by pressing the alpha key, which is a letter, and highlighting H, because that's a quick way of getting to that particular key. Well, once you have it highlighted, then you press your execute key. Now, don't get alarmed. This is just the setup. If you've never used the geometry menu before, this is the screen that you're going to see. And it's just telling you where the function keys are, where your help key is, and if we press exit, we get into the main screen. There's nothing really here. The geometry menu is very similar to a Sketchpad or Cabri. So you have different programs on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our geometry screen, and we're going to do that by setting up the geometry menu. And what we're going to do is first we're going to go to our Shift key, and we're going to press the Shift key, and you'll notice that on the Prism a little S for Shift highlights here. And then we're going to hit Menu, which is also going to be our setup. So once we do that, we get this screen. Now on your handout, you'll see a copy of what the screen should look like once it's set up. We're mainly dealing with what the grid, we want that on, and we don't necessarily want the axes off. So to get to grid, we're just going to arrow down to grid, and we want lines. So here's lines, and what this is going to do is it's going to make our screen sort of look like graph paper. Now if you'll notice, it's the third in the soft key menu, and if you go over to the top of your calculator, it's going to correspond to that F3 key. So you press the F3 key and you get line. And now we're going to go to our axes, which they're already off, but if we're on, we would go down to our axes, and we would simply hit off in our soft menu, which corresponds to F2 in our function keys. And now to lock it in, we're going to tell the calculator, yes, that's what I want. So we're going to hit execute. And we have what basically looks like graph paper. We're also going to set up the view window because we want our boxes just a little bit smaller. So I'm going to, again, my view window is here in gold. Again, I'm going to hit Shift and then F3 to get my view window. And I'm going to set it up for a 10 spaces instead of 7. So to change this, my first one is a min, so I'm going to hit my minus or negative and 10. And then for my max, I'm going to put in 10. And for my mid, I'm just going to put it in the middle at 0. And my screen is set up. Once it's set up, I tell it, execute it, and I now have a very nice little grid to work on. We're going to be drawing circles today. We're going to start with an ascribed angle inside of a circle. So to do this, we're going to use our function keys. These are, when you press them, as you go through, you can see that they will have various files on them. The first one is basically files, zoom boxes, edit, which we will be using. But we're going to start with the draw, and we want to draw a circle. And if you'll notice, circle is here, and a 6 is right next to it. We can access it in two different ways. We can either arrow down and highlight it, or we can simply press F6, or excuse me, number 6, I'm not F6, and we're ready. You'll notice that in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a symbol of a circle. That tells me what I'm drawing. Sort of nice to make sure. I'm just going to make sure that my arrow key is over somewhat in the middle. Now, as in some programs, in the Sketchpad, you used to press Shift to access or highlight a point. We press Tan. Tan is our select key. And if you'll notice, right here, it's hard to see in some cases, but you get a little X there. That tells you that you have selected and you're ready to start drawing. And what we're going to do is we're going to press our arrow key, and we're just going to keep going out. And as we get bigger, the circle gets bigger. I'm only going to go out to 4 spaces. And I press my Tan again, and I have my circle. Now you'll notice that with this, you'll have the center be shown, and it'll also give you a point on the circle. Now what I want to do with the circle is I want to draw an inscribed angle. So this means I'm going to need to draw line segments. I'm going to go back to F3, which is my draw menu, press it, and I'm going to do line segment. Now I could use my arrow keys in my circular pad to go up to line segment, but I'm just going to hit number 2. That's a quick way of getting there. And I'm ready. Notice that up in my upper right-hand corner, I now have a line segment instead of a circle. That's telling me that I'm going to be drawing a line segment. Now, you can see in your picture where in your handout that I moved my arrow key. So I'm going to move it up a little bit because I don't want it quite on the radius there. Now, as you notice, as I move up, I get 4 open boxes. That's highlighting that right now, if I were to click Tan, I would be selecting the circle. But I'm just going to move up a little bit further, and notice they disappear. But if I go back, they appear again. That means that if I press my Tan key now, the start of my line segment is going to be on the circle. So I'm going to press Tan, and you get that little X there. And I'm just going to move across the circle. and sometimes you go a little faster, till I get 4 boxes on the other side. And that tells me I'm back on the circle again. So I'm going to press tan. And then since I have a box now around this point, that means if I press tan again, I'll start at that point, which is point D. So I'm going to press tan again. This time I'm going to go down and put a line segment somewhat on the bottom. Maybe, around here. Let's just go over. That looks like a good spot. And again, I'm looking for my 4 boxes to make sure it's going to be on the circle, and I press tan. Now I have angle CDE inscribed in circle A. But I also need a central angle. And that central angle that I want to use is going to use these 2 endpoints because I want them to have the same arc. So I'm going to go from my E, so I'm going to go up, and I'm going to make sure that only E has a box on it. Otherwise, I'm going to create a new point. I'm going to press tan, and I'm going to go up and go over to A. And getting over there, once my open box appears, I press tan. I press tan again to start a new line so I can get segment AC. And I'm going to go up and over to point C. And I have to make sure that that box, only that box is there, and press. Now I have my inscribed angle, and I have my central angle. To get out of the draw program and to eliminate drawing anymore, you press exit. Sort of nice to have that mean the same thing. And now I'm no longer drawing. What we want to do now is we want to animate this. What the proposition says is that if you have an angle inscribed in a circle, that it is equal to half of the central angle. Well, we're going to test that theory out. What we're going to do is we're going to animate this point C, and we're going to animate it around the circle. To do that, we're going to use a different menu. We're going to use the Animate menu. And if you press F6, you get Animate. And we have lots of choices here. But we're first going to edit our animation, which is number 4. So I'm going to press 4. Now the number of times is the number of times the animation will run. I don't need 10 times, so I'm going to make that a 1 and press go enter. And I've found that 20 steps getting 20 angles can be a little bit more than I need. So I'm going to go to 6. Now you can go to as many as you want, 8, 10, but if you get too many, it gets a little much. Once I've finished and I have everything done, then I'm going to press exit to get back to my screen. Now to make that point go around the circle, I have to select the point, so I'm going to press tan, and you'll notice that the box changed from an open box to a solid box. Now I have to highlight the circle. So I'm going to move my cursor until I get those 4 open boxes again. Now I press tan, and there we go. So we now have 4 squares, closed boxes, so both of these are now selected. At this point now, I'm going to be able to move this point around this circle. So we're now going to go back to F6. We're going to tell it to add an animation. And you can tell when it's added because you'll have a dark circle, but it's going to be blinking at you with a nice yellow, sort of like ready to go. I'm ready. Let's hit it. So now we're going to go back up to F6, and we're going to tell it to go once. I don't need to repeat, so I'm going to press 5 to correspond with that. And if you'll notice, the angle point moves around, and we get our various angles. You could actually trace and find those points on the circle, but it's not necessary. Once I've traced it, though, I need to find the measures of my angles. The nice thing about this program is that you can actually set up a table of the measures of the angles and compare them. So let's start with our central angle. We're going to take our cursor and we're going to move it to AC until two boxes are on AC. So let's move it over, and there are my two open boxes. All right, I'm going to press Tan. Now I'm going to go move my cursor down and highlight AE so that I get the same two boxes and I can select it. Once I go down, and I might have to go over a little bit, but I go down, there are my two open boxes, and I press. Now, it's measuring this particular angle. You'll notice that the measure is up here. That's an automatic. But what we're going to do is we're going to have the calculator tell us what all of our central angles are equal to. So we're going to go back up to F6. Now, notice that there is a little arrow here. If it's pointing down, that means if I go further down, if I scroll down, there's more information. And if you'll notice, there are two hidden labels here, Add Table and Display Table. We're going to add table. So let's go up one, and let's add a table. And there are our central angles. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to go back and exit, because what I want to do now is I want to measure my inscribed angle. Now, there's a lot here already highlighted, and I want to just deselect it altogether. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my F2 key, which is at the top of the calculator. When I press that, I get the Edit menu. What the Edit menu allows you to do is undo things. You can select everything. You can deselect everything. You can delete a figure, or you can clear everything out altogether. Well, we don't want to clear everything out. We're going to deselect everything. So that's a 3. So I go to my calculator and I press 3. Everything's cleaned up. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move my arrow over and highlight DE. And I didn't have to go very far to get my two boxes there. Press my Tan. And now I'm going to move up to DC. And we move up. And there we go. Press Tan. And we have our measure. Now if you remember, the measure before that said 60 something. This one says 30. So I'm already have a half of my central angle. But let's see what our table says. So we're going to go to F6. Now I can go quickly down this way, or I could actually arrow up to get to the bottom of it. Or I could have pressed 7. I'm going to press 7 again, and there we have it. And if you look at your table, all of the numbers seem to be half of the number before it. So that sort of shows them that the angle is half. Now, maybe they don't believe the division. Another nice thing about these tables is that you can store them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to store it in my statistics list functions. So I'm going to press, store goes right above F1. So I'm going to press F1, and it asks me what list do I want to put it in. Well, sounds to me like since this is the second column, I'm going to put it in list 2. So list is soft key corresponding to F1. So I'll press F1, and it says store in list memory. Gives me an option. I don't want to lose it, so I think I'll go to the first for 2. And there it is. Then I can use my arrow key to move over to the first column. And I'm going to put these in list 1. So again, I'm going to press F1 for list, hit number 1 for the first list, and execute. Now at this point, I'm going to go out of the geometry menu and into the statistics menu. So let's go to the main menu key, which is right on the first column right under F4, right next to the circle. And we're going to go to statistics. Now statistics is at the top. And again, I can either highlight it, or at the main menu screen, I could have pressed 2 for a shortcut. And once I press statistics, there are my angles. Now in the statistics, I'm not going to graph them, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do some calculations with both lists. And when I want to do a calculation with both lists, I have to take my cursor, which is now my highlighted cell, and I'm going to move it up to where it says list. What this is going to do is let me operate on the whole list at one time rather than each number separately. And I'm going to go over to list 3 that's empty. Now we're going to do an operation with lists. So what we have to do is we're going to take list 1, which was my central angle, and since the inscribed is supposed to be half of the central angle, we'll take list 1 divided by 2 and see if it works. So to get the list and to start putting an equation down here, we're going to press Option, and you'll notice you get list here, which is what I want. And I'm going to press F1 to correspond to it. And again, here's list. Press 1, we have list 1. And we're going to divide it. Now we're going to go back and get list 2 the same way. So press Option, list F1 twice to get list 2. Now once we have the equation there, we're satisfied. When we press the execute key, it's going to perform that operation and list those number values in this column. And notice, here we have it. All of my angles are 2, which shows you that this angle, the central angle, is twice as large as the inscribed angle. And now students have a way of working with the numbers, and they can actually see it. Even though they may not believe it, they have a way of looking at it. And they can actually do this for themselves, which I find really helps them in solidifying that idea in their mind, so that then when they go to see it again, they'll be able to do it without any hesitation. So, do we have any questions so far from anyone?
Actually,
okay.
we do have one question.
Okay.
One person got an interesting result, and I have a feeling, without being able to look too closely, I think I know what's going on, but it's worth pointing out. Mm-hmm. I don't know the particulars, but I know that the result was in list 1, 152.5 degrees. Mm-hmm. And in list 2, you'd expect to be roughly 76-ish, but instead they got 103.71, which is the supplement to that.
That can happen in some of them, and the reason being is that when it goes around the ground. Let me go back to the geometry menu.
Just worth pointing out in case it happens to someone else, so that they realize it's just kind of one of the weird little hiccups that can occur.
It's a glitch that comes, and what I'm going to do is I'll show you what happens, and I'll deselect this. Let me do something a little bit different. We can actually, as I said, trace this point out. Now my points will come out, but if I take it and animate this, and I'm going to replace the animation this time, since I'm not going to add it. I'm just going to replace what I did. And I'm also going to do something different. I'm going to trace the animation. So that's going to trace the points. And the nice thing about this gives you a way of actually showing them. So when you look at it, notice that it tells you where the points are. Mm-hmm. So what actually happens is that sometimes when the angles go around, you're going to get that one glitch where the calculator is going to measure the supplement instead of the actual angle.
Exactly.
So that does come up sometimes, but with a trace key you can actually show that, which is really nice.
Very nice. Thank you.
So that would be good. Any other questions? Okay. Well, now that we've been able to get our central angles straight and we're ready for those, now let's look at looking at an inscribed angle in a semicircle. A lot of my students don't understand this. They seem to have a hard time understanding that that is going to be a right angle, and they prefer to think of this as going, they'll tell me it's everything from 110 to 70, and I want them to actually see that no matter where it is, it will be 90 degrees. So we're going to start by clearing our screen. We're going to clear out, whoops, I'm going to do that thing. We're going to go back to 2, and we're going to clear all. Now that's going to clear everything but the grid. Now the other nice thing I like is that I'm asked whether I really want to do this, because sometimes you may not want to. So we're going to have F1, clear it all out. Now we're going to, again, I'm going to move my cursor somewhere to the middle, so I'm closer to the middle of the graph. That looks good. And we're now going to draw an arc. So we're going to go back to our drawing measurement, and what we're going to do is, notice we have a circle, but again, notice we have that arrow key down on the bottom. So we're going to go, now I can go down this way and go use my down arrow key, but if I use my up arrow key, I can get to it a little bit quicker. And you'll notice that it's over number 7, so I can press 7 and I can get there very quickly. And again, our picture, but this time it's a arc. Now it does show an arc around a circle, so you will have a point there. So you're going to start by pressing 10. Now that's going to be that point in the middle there in the picture. And you're going to use your right arrow key, or you can use your left arrow key, either one. And we're going to go out to the side, and we're going to press 10. Now notice nothing happened yet because we haven't finished drawing the arc. What we've located is the one end point of the arc, and now we're going to go. Now, if I start going up, you'll notice that I start making an angle. What's going to happen is it's going to make an arc along that angle. But we want a semicircle, so I'm going to go all the way across, and actually I'm just going to go over, and I'm going to go down so to make it straight across, and I'm going to go all the way across. And we're almost there, and we're close. And I press 10. And you'll notice I have an arc. Now, I don't have a semicircle, I have an arc. So I'm going to draw my diameter CB, and I'm going to change from an arc picture. I'm going up to F3. I'm going to go to 2 to do a line segment for my diameter. I'm going to press 10 to tell it where to start and get that little box there, that little cross. And then I'm going to go across till B is an open box and press 10. And now I have a semicircle. And I can exit out. Oh, nope, not yet. I forgot. Got to put our angle in. Now I'm going to make a small angle. I'm just going to go up to a point, say about here, and then over, and create my angle BDC. So let's go up a little bit, and not too far, and press 10. Oops, I think I goofed up there. Let me go back here. Let's see. Let me take that out there. I keep getting in there. I want to get rid of these. So let me get rid of this real quickly by selecting it and deleting it, because I want, there we go. Now I can go back up. Okay, let's go back and select my line segment, and we'll go up. So that is, oh, I forgot. I got to start at B. Okay, let's go over to B and get 10. Now I can start my segments. Go up a little bit. Go over until the circle. Now this time the arcs only have 2 boxes on it. So, but that tells me it's selected, so I press my 10. and I get my point, and then I'm going to press, since it's one open box on that point, press tan. I'm going to go over, go down to point C, and press tan. Now I have an inscribed angle inside of a semicircle, so I'm going to exit out from the drawing. Now what I need to do is I need to highlight this point E and have it travel along the semicircles to create angles inside. So let's go over to E and make sure there's one open box on it and select it. And then if you just move your key, your cursor a bit, you'll get those two open boxes on the semicircle, and press tan. And now I have my point selected. So now we go back to our Animate menu, which is F6. We're going to press this. We're going to replace the animation we just did. And we're going to go back up to F6 and have it go once by pressing 5. And you'll notice that I get nice little right angles there. Okay, they're supposed to be 90 degrees. Well, let's see what our chart says. So we're going to go down and we're going to select. Now, you're going to see two open boxes on that EB. So I'll select it. And I'm going to go over and select EC. I have my central angle. Now I'm going to create my table by going up to my Animate function, which is F6. I can go either up or down or just hit 7 and get my table. And you'll notice that the first one is an error and the last one is an error, but the others, all others are 90. If you go back to the picture, if you'll notice when the point went over, you'll notice that the first point started at B. Well, that's 0 degrees, so you're not going to get a central angle, and it doesn't read that angle. It won't give you an angle for a straight line. And then at the end, it went over to C, so you had a straight angle of 180 degrees, which again, it's not going to give you that measurement for the inscribed angle. So this angle would not have a measurement. It would only have one side, because as the point moves around, CE is going to 0, EB is going to the diameter. But you can look at the table and we can display it. And again, display table is 8, so I press it. You can see that all the other angles in between are 90 degrees. So we can now show them that no matter what that angle is, no matter what you do. The nice thing about this is a nice point in a geometry class to bring up why this particular theorem is very useful. For this is how they made right angles in long time ago when they didn't have everything to measure. Or if you have a big circle and you want to put a right angle in it, then you can do it by having the semicircle and just finding 2 points. So very nice item to use. So there you have 2 different types of inscribed angles and central angles in your circle, and something that you can demonstrate to your students or have them do on their own to explore and see what happens. And the nice thing is that no 2 students will have the same angles, so they can actually see that it's not just one set of points that it's going to do, get you the angles, but that everyone will get up with the same results. So do we have any other questions that we can answer for you tonight?
No, not at this point.
Well, if not, okay, well then I thank you all for coming tonight, and I hope that you enjoy using these 2 activities. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. You can contact me through Casio, and if there's anything I do, please let me know.
And also, if I'll chime in, tell you what, since you're all finished, I'm going to take over the screen again really quickly, and I just want to both demonstrate something and kind of wrap up. One thing that I've been following along, as you can see, One thing that you've been doing that I just wanted to highlight was when you're accessing these menus and you see something like this, if you want to find the other menu, sometimes they have an alternate menu under F1, and you can just move left and right to access the submenus. And another thing that's kind of handy, at least I use it all the time because I'm not a big user of the geometry application, and then so what happens is from time to time I will get back into it and I'll be like, oh, which was the animation? Was that F5 or F6? I can never quite remember. But you'll notice you can just hit these. You know, once you get a menu up, you're not locked into it. You can always just hit a different function key. So I'll just check them all out until I say, oh, there we go, draw a special figure, etc. So just kind of a handy thing to keep in mind. Another thing that I also like to remind people of is we have these sort of pre-programmed hotkeys that jump you around. So if I want to quickly draw something in the upper right corner, if I press 9, we find, bingo, we're up in the upper right-hand corner. And you essentially imagine the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 set up on your screen. And so to jump back to the center where I put A, I would just hit 5 and I jump back to the center, and etc. So a couple tricks that I find to be very helpful. Oh, and one last, the VAR menu. This one gets a little complicated for first-timers, so I don't want to overwhelm you, but you can get in there and play around with it. It will let you find the measurement that you're dealing with. You can lock certain features, as you may be familiar with some geometry programs. And if I move over into this menu and up, I can configure other issues that I'm trying to figure out, like I can force two lines to be congruent. I can measure distances, angles, etc. So, well, I think we're just about done. I do want to let everyone know who may be watching about our online training course at casioeducation.com/educators/online_training. It's a free course that teaches you a lot of the features on the Prism. And when you complete the course, we're currently giving away a license, an individual license of our software to those who are completing it. It's for a limited time while supplies last. So although we're posting this online, I can't guarantee how long that'll be, but certainly take a look at it if you get a chance. Thank you again, Judy, for doing this. I appreciate your time.
Oh, you're so welcome.
And we will post this on YouTube in the near future. So thanks again, and have a good night.
And good night.